Hey guys, Legendary Grimlock here, and today we have another survival video for you guys. So today we're going to be doing can the Pokemon survive the Saiyan Saga. Now the Saiyan Saga is one of the most, I have to say, probably one of the few most popular sagas, and then you have the Cell Saga, and I know some people don't really like the Boo Saga, but I think compare it to the Saiyan Saga, the Frieza Saga, and the Cell Saga, it's not as good as those three. But today we're going to see if the Pokemon verse can survive, and we'll have to set a few ground rules for this, just so that Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz aren't completely curb stomped here. Now you might be asking yourself, Legendary, what are those rules exactly? Well, that's very simple. We're taking away legendary Pokemon. Yeah. We're not taking away their scaling, but we are taking them away from this kind of battle. Because someone like Giratina, Zygarde, the legendary beast, or Lugia shows up, it's pretty much wraps here. Because these guys have like universal plus level feats all the way to outerversal. So these characters, or at least these Pokemon, even some of them being conceptual Pokemon, will not be in this battle. So we'll be doing standard normal Pokemon, but I guess we will allow two legendary Pokemon to remain, as at least for, I guess you could say, story's sake, if you will, or a narrative sense, if you will, here. Because again, we are going to treat this like it's the Saiyan Saga. So with that being said here, we also need to talk about the scaling, because I feel like even the average Pokemon is very underrated. We're at least going to be scaling them to their highest tier, which I do believe is planetary. But let's talk about the Saiyan Saga scaling, which I have seen people make arguments that the Saiyan Saga could at least be star level. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. It's just maybe they did put them above characters like Kami, who can create the moon, which is like a Dwarf star level feat apparently. And you have characters like Piccolo that could easily one-shot the moon. I mean, this is kind of standard Dragon Ball stuff here. Master Roshi being able to, again, one-shot the moon. And the Kamehameha from Goku and Master Roshi have both been stated that they could easily destroy the moon. Raditz, despite being weaker than Nappa and Vegeta here, was still able to take this blast from Piccolo, and again, their AP should scale to their durability pretty easily. So Raditz should be planetary. You then have characters like King Vegeta, who like triple planet busted in the anime, base form Frieza, who destroyed Planet Vegeta, which has been calced multiple times to be a star level feat, which is actually believable. I do believe that Dragon Ball, at least from the Namek Saga, is where star level scaling does start here. You have quotes from Vegeta that he was going to destroy the planet, and even in the guidebooks or the Daizenshuu for Dragon Ball, Vegeta's Gallic Gun was still stated to be able to destroy the planet. So again, on the more consistent end, yes, it would be planetary, at least planetary plus for the Saiyans, but again, star level is just it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird for me because the more consistent half says that these guys could easily planet bust. It's more casual for them. But let's talk about your average everyday Pokemon. Now, you do understand that these Pokemon can go toe-to-toe with legendary Pokemon. Here, you guys can see Gyarados blocking an attack from Mewtwo. The same Mewtwo that can go toe-to-toe with some of the most powerful conceptual Pokemon like Zygarde, Yveltal, Xerneas, and Darkrai. So with these Pokemon being the embodiments of dreams and balance themselves, even in death and life, again, Mewtwo should scale to them, and these guys have, again, universal to higher level feats. So again, the average Pokemon could be seen as universal. You have Pokemon like Tauros, Mamoswine, and Buizel who were able to fight against Dialga and Palkia, the little conceptual gods of the entirety of the Pokemon verse here. So they were really affecting Dialga and Palkia and even causing them to yell out in pain to a degree. And then you also had Pokemon like Empoleon who were able to take attacks from Dialga and Palkia. Now again, you could definitely say that they're holding back as to not destroy the entire universe. Okay, but even at their lowest end, this is still planetary. Possibly higher, because again, these guys were clashing with each other and shaking an entire void. So again, you could still argue they have universal AP, but again, considering they were holding back, or you could argue the fact they're holding back and trying not to literally erase these guys from existence, we'll keep it at the lower end and we'll say planetary plus. Okay? That way it's simply fair for the Saiyans here. So the Pokemon here also exhibit many abilities, all right? And this is because of their typing. They can use, psychic types can use telepathy and can even see into the future and predict where attacks are coming from. Water types have hydrokinesis and can inflict, burn damage. Normal types can actually use various amounts of abilities, including from psychic, poison, electric, you name it, they got it. All right? You have grass types, which can heal not only themselves, but their opponents. Sorry, not their opponents, their teammates as well. You have fire types, which can inflict burn. And then you have some Pokemon that have abilities that can not only do status afflictions, like poison types, but also moves that it can increase their power, like Torrent, Blaze, and Overgrowth. So far, those are the ones we really know of until Pokemon decides to update it. You also have your pseudo-legendaries, which would scale above the scaling I already provided. So if you want to put them at Universal, they would honestly be like Universal Plus. Essentially, the base level for Pokemon would be a Super Saiyan God Goku equivalent if we're using the higher end scaling, with pseudo-legendaries being like Super Saiyan Blue. So let's explain this from a narrative sense, or at least let's set the ground rules from a narrative sense, right? Mewtwo knows that the Saiyans are coming to Earth and pretty much informs every Pokemon about it. Let's say he's the leader of this planet, and again, there are no humans. We'll also give Mewtwo the power to Gigantamax at least one Pokemon. At least one here. Because again, I do feel like what I'm going to give the Saiyans is actually just pretty fair. Plus, Gigantamax is giving the power of a legendary Pokemon, or at least using the energies of a legendary Pokemon to increase the power and overall durability, stamina, endurance, and strength of a Pokemon. Some Pokemon do get a speed boost, but in all honesty, not everyone. Now, we will also be allowing all the Saiyans to go into their Great Ape forms. This is important here because, again, I do like the Xenoverse concept of Vegeta and Nappa becoming Great Apes here. So, again, if we're giving Pokemon their Gigantamax boost, or at least the ones that we actually know are canon Gigantamax boosts, or canon Gigantamax Pokemon, my apologies. We will also be giving the Saiyans their Great Ape forms, as is just simply fair. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, the Saiyans will be coming there for, let's say, Regigigas, because they want to sell him to Frieza. So, Raditz arrives, like in the original story of Dragon Ball, and he obviously is going to crash land where Regigigas is originally inhabited, or at least the environment Regigigas originally was when we first saw him. That was easily the Sinnoh region, which, believe it or not, actually has the most legendary Pokemon inhabited in this region. I wonder why. It's very interesting in my opinion. So the Pokemon that I think could really deal with Raditz would be Floatzel, the evolution of Buizel, which I just scaled earlier. And again, we're using the lower end scaling, which is Planetary Plus. So, reminder, right? And Magmortar. Now, you see, the reason why I chose this duo is because it does feel like a great counter to characters like Raditz. I could have added or used other Pokemon like Tyranitar, Metagross, Kombo-o, Rillaboom. But again, I just want to give some more underrated Pokemon some more love here. Now, the thing about Floatzel is, again, he can scale above Buizel. He's easily above Buizel because he's the literal, final form of him. He's the evolutionary form of Buizel here. And then you have characters like Raditz. Now, Raditz obviously is going to start off close quarters combat because, again, these Pokemon don't give off ki. They have energy, but again, they don't give off the specific energy that the Scouters would detect here. And I actually think Raditz starting off in close quarters combat would be something that Floatzel would love, being able to use Bulk Up to increase his strength, speed, and durability. However, I do think that starting off close quarters and landing blows against a character like Magmortar is an absolute suicide. Now, the reason why I say this is because Magmortar actually has a specific ability to kind of make you just be like, yeah, I shouldn't have touched you in the first place. Now, Magmortar's special ability is Flame Body. For those of you who don't know what Flame Body is a status element dealing ability that Magmortar has when a Pokemon makes direct contact or uses any close quarters combat move against him. Now, this burn does not go away. It really doesn't. I think you need a special potion in order to do it in games. But in the anime and manga, there's really no way to get rid of it unless you go into Nurse Joy. So, yeah. Plus, counting the fact that Magmortar is a long-range fighter. Something that honestly could counter a lot of Raditz's abilities, like Double Sunday, Saturday Crush, Weekend. You guys get it. Plus, Floatzel being a close quarters combat character, honestly, it don't look too good. Plus, Floatzel does have some long-range attacks like Hydro Pump, Scold, Whirlpool, Ice Beam, and he can even use some close quarter moves that can flash freeze opponents like Ice Punch and Ice Beam. Sorry, not Ice Beam being a close quarters combat move, but you guys get my point. He can even fire a Sonic Boom, which moves faster than the speed of sound. But again, with most Pokemon scaling, with them being able to scale the Solar Beam with every attack they have here, yeah, they would actually be firing attacks at faster than light. So yeah, I know it sounds weird for these attacks to be moving that fast, but again, it is consistent within the verse. So what if Raditz actually goes Great Ape, right? We obviously have to talk about that. Now again, I don't really think it makes too much of a difference here. You see, the reason why I'm saying this is because these Pokemon still have a lot of moves they could offer. Magmortar could use Smog, which is a poison type move, to add on to Raditz's ailment dealing, so he would have to deal with his body burning and poison. Now again, I do think that Raditz can still damage these guys, but again, the Flame Body ability, plus I don't really think they would know about his tail weakness. I don't think they would. I think the only way they would discover the tail is a weakness is if they decide to aim for it. And knowing some Pokemon do like to go and attack from the back or try to hit their opponents from the back, pause, I just think that they would probably cut the tail off by accident. Maybe Floatzel uses something like Ice Fang or Sonic Boom, and it winds up cutting Raditz's tail off, thus giving them an edge in the fight. Plus, this kind of does take away Raditz's only weakness, so the fight would definitely go on longer. Why didn't he cut his tail off in the first place in Dragon Ball? I kind of felt like he should have did it because, again, it was his weakness. Like, what? But again, with the Flame Body ailment and stuff like that, I do think Raditz would lose, and they would go on to prepare for the Saiyans. But let's go over the other ones, Vegeta and Nappa. Now, considering the sheer fact that Goku arrived late, we're going to give this Pokemon team a person to wait for. And I chose Scolipede because, again, we got to give the poison type some love. Now, the thing about this is I did choose a team that is comparable and competent enough to take out the Saiyans. Buzzwole, Abomasnow, Infernape, Gardevoir, Luxray, and Noctowl. Now, Buzzwole is easily going to be able to take out either Vegeta or Nappa in a one-on-one confrontation. But again, we're using the lower end scaling here. So again, he would scale, I guess you could say, slightly above the others. He does have a lot of fighting type moves like Bulk Up, and he also is able to drain his opponent's life force to actually gain strength here. Plus, he scales to the Tapus pretty easily, who are like planetary as the lowest end possible. And even then, we'll also give the Saiyans the Cybermen, to which I really don't think would be an issue here, because again, this team is made kind of to really counter the Saiyans, and I think Mewtwo would be thinking that. And I think the first big problem here we're going to have is Noctowl. Now, see, Noctowl is kind of like the Chiatsu of the team, except he's far more useful. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because Noctowl has a lot of long-range attacks. He's not a very close-range fighter. And if he is, he's using every bit of speed he has in there to pretty much get the attack in and get out. So Noctowl possessing things like Air Slash, and whatchamacallit, Confusion. He could easily mind control the Cybermen to attack each other or attack Vegeta and Nappa. Abomasnow can easily use the Snow Blind ability, to which it causes a Hailstorm, which deals status ailment, to which decreases the opponent's speed. And again, this would allow Abomasnow and his team to deal a lot more damage to the Saiyans And again, we're treating this as a narrative perspective, right? So this means that Nappa would face them all by himself. Meaning that Pokemon like Abomasnow, Luxray with his static and or paralysis ability, which mostly all electric types have here, would actually deal a lot of damage. And then you also have abilities like Double Team, Thunder Shock, Swift, Iron Tail, Wood Hammer, Blizzard, Ice Punch, which could deal a lot of damage to Nappa here. Plus using things like Confusion to possibly control. And let's say Nappa is just a little more mentally stronger than the likes of the Cybermen or Raditz here, and then it would just leave him a little bit disorientated. That's still a long opening for the others to get everything in. Now again, the key to this fight would actually be Gardevoir, especially with her ability Future Sight. Future Sight is an ability that allows the opponent to see a couple seconds or at least a couple minutes into the future and allow them to predict their opponent's movements. Let's not forget, Gardevoir can use abilities like Psychic and Telepathy to either read her opponent's mind or reverse their attacks back onto them. So again, if Nappa does his Break Cannon, he could very well have it deflected and just slammed right back on top of him. So in all honesty, yeah, this team is pretty good for countering Nappa here. But again, like always, like with Raditz, we're going to give Nappa the same treatment. What if he goes grade 8? And in all honesty, if he goes grade 8, he's just going to get more hair. But now, on a serious note here, I do think Nappa does do a lot more damage than Raditz would when he goes grade 8. However, I do think at this time, Scolipede would arrive and just add insult to injury with his poison typing. Now again, now that poison is running through Nappa's veins, his attacks can be reversed. They probably know about the tail weakness now, if again the Pokemon are smart enough. Some Pokemon are smart enough to just know about that. But let's say that they're not here. Again, it's very possible they still just take out Nappa by using his own attacks against him, using his size and weight against him, and using their superior speed to kind of like skate around their attacks and just launch everything they have at him. Still dealing the same amount of damage, and Snowblind would have reduced Nappa's speed still because he wouldn't have been able to get rid of that. As long as a Abomasnow is still in play, the Snowblind ability is just there. Now, let's go over Vegeta. And again, he probably would want the one-on-one. And that's where Buzzwole will come in. And like I said earlier, Buzzwole is about to mess him up. Absolutely badly as well. Buzzwole is, I wouldn't say a better hand-to-hand combatant, but I definitely would say a stronger, more wildly and unpredictable combatant. Plus, with his abilities like Bulk Up, he can simply overpower Vegeta, match his speed, dodge nearly all of his attacks, and if worse comes to worse, he can simply grab Vegeta and sap his life energy. So in all honesty, yeah, again, I'm lowballing Buzzwole and the Pokemon here just to give Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa a chance here. And Buzzwole would probably be the strongest one I've used so far. But again, let's do the same for Vegeta here. However, this is where I would actually use Gigantamax. Now, if you do want my opinion on if I use Gigantamax Pokemon throughout the entire thing, who would I use? Now, for Raditz, I would have used Caporaja with Grimmsnarl as a secondary choice for backup. For Nappa, I think a Gigantamax Butterfree with the poison and everything definitely would have been a very interesting one for him. Or maybe Center Scorch, as that actually would have been probably a creepy one in my opinion. But again, for Vegeta, I had to think about this one though, because he's definitely more skilled, he's more intelligent, and I do believe with this lower end scaling for the Pokemon, he could definitely take out a Gigantamax, especially one that doesn't have too much to really offer. I do believe he would beat a Gigantamax Caporaja because it's too slow. I definitely think he could beat a Gigantamax Grimmsnarl by using its elasticity against it, and definitely a Obstagoon. I almost forgot the name. A Gigantamax Obstagoon. But the one I really like for Vegeta is a Toxtricity. You see, this one is basically a double sword. But not double edge where you can stab yourself in. No, this is a double sword that's coming right at the opponent. This thing has electricity and poison. So this means Vegeta could get a double dose. He can get poisoned and paralyzed as the fight goes on, giving Toxtricity a very convincing win here. But overall, if I had to say, could the Pokemon survive a Saiyan invasion? Yeah. Yeah. If I added legendary Pokemon to it, I would have to go further and use things like Super Saiyan Blue, Super Saiyan God, and Ultra Ego. And even then, Vegeta still wouldn't make it through the verse. But hey, y'all having a good day though. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. Peace.